So let's talk about how I made it to Wall Street. Honestly, the overall story is crazy. The hoops I had to jump through, the people I had to meet, the amount of miles I had to drive to get there. It's absolutely wild. But here's everything I did to go from an accountant in Ohio right out of college to a banker in Wall Street. So as an accountant, you usually get a lot of job offers and people reaching out on LinkedIn saying, hey, we have an accounting opening at XYZ company and they want you because you have all the skills, and accountants literally are a dime a dozen, so they want to fill as many positions as they can. So I was getting a bunch of those, but then I randomly got one from JP Morgan. They said, hey, we have a huge presence in Columbus where you're currently based, and if you want to become an accountant or be in the finance department for us, we would love to have you. And I responded to them saying, I would love to join JP Morgan. It's a great company, it's a great brand, but I would only be really interested in anything if you had something in either Chicago or New York. Because at this point in time, I just wanted to get out of Columbus. So they said, well, we don't have any openings right now, but we may have something in the future. And if so, we'll call you. So I'm about a year into my career as an accountant right out of college. Then I get a message from the recruiter at JP Morgan saying, hey, we don't have any job openings right now, but there's a career fair in New York in the office at about 4:30 p.m. on a Thursday. If you can get to there, there's going to be a bunch of different hiring managers in that particular career fair, and it's more of a happy hour, so it's not really formal. But if you can go there and get in front of them, JP Morgan might want to hire you. At this point, it's a Tuesday. I'm in Ohio. I said, okay, I'll do it. Not knowing how I would get there, not knowing where I would stay, but just knowing that if I go to this meeting, I'm going to get a job. Luckily, I had some PTO saved up at my current job. I took a Thursday and a Friday off, and my goal was to leave after work on Wednesday, drive from Ohio to New York, which is 8 hours, wake up in the morning, and then around 3 or 4 p.m., I would go to the headquarters of JP Morgan in Midtown Manhattan, and I would see what I can do. So that's what I did. I got my best suit, I put it in my car, packed up my toothbrush, and I hit the road. I drove from Ohio to New York that Wednesday night with a happy hour the next evening. So when I get there, I'm staying in a place called Secaucus, New Jersey. And if you've ever been to New York, you know that Secaucus is literally right across the water. It's right by the tunnel, and it's a great way to get in and out of the city really quickly. Got a hotel there, and it's late by now because like I said, I left after work. When I got there, I checked in late, but I said, hey, you know what? I have an entire day. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna print out some resumes. I'm gonna go to this thing and I'm gonna kill it. So 3 or 4 rolls around, I put my best suit on. I have 2 ties to choose from. One's black, one's blue. I go ahead and choose the black one to go with the gray suit that I had, and I go. I had about 20 or 30 different resumes printed out. The hiring manager was there to greet me when I got there, and I look around the room, there's about 200 or 300 people at this different happy hour, and the recruiter looks at me and says, hey, you wanted to be here? This is your shot. So what I did was I shook as many hands as I possibly could. I did an entire lap around the room, and by the time I was done, I was talking to one of the hiring managers that had an open role on their team. They said, hey, you know what? You should come meet some other people on my team. I said, you know what? That's great. I kid you not. The hiring manager that I had been talking to and their entire team all night said, hey, you know what? Are you gonna be in town for another day? So I ended up meeting just about their entire team that day at that happy hour. And the happy hour was on, like I said, from about 4:30 to about 6:30. So it was only about 2 hours of mixing and mingling, giving out my resumes, telling about my background before I could actually, leave and see if that works. I kid you not. The hiring manager that I had been talking to and their entire team all night said, hey, you know what? Are you gonna be in town for another day? And mind you, I had only booked the room for 1 day, and I knew I needed to go back tomorrow to get back to Ohio. But I said, hey, you know what? I'm here all weekend. They said, hey, why don't you do this? Come by the office at 8 a.m. tomorrow. You're gonna have some formal interviews with about 6 to 8 people on the team. Bring your resumes. If they like you, then who knows? So excited as I was, took down the information, went back to my hotel room and thought to myself, I only have 1 suit, but luckily for me, I had 2 ties. So I ironed that suit as best I could. I ironed the shirt again and I waited. I couldn't sleep that night because I was super nervous, but I knew that if I kill this, I'm on my way to becoming a banker on Wall Street. And then the morning came, and this is almost where I fumbled everything. So like I said, Secaucus, New Jersey is right next to Manhattan, New York. And at this time, I had no idea about how the trains work. So what I did was I called an Uber at 7 a.m. And I said, from 7 a.m., I can make it to Midtown Manhattan in about 30 minutes. I'll grab a coffee and I'll be ready about 15 minutes early. What I didn't know is that Uber would take me 50 minutes. I got there at 7:50 and I don't know which building it is. JP Morgan has about 4 or 5 different buildings, all located in the same area in Midtown Manhattan. So I went to 2 to 3, couldn't find where I needed to go. And finally, one of the receptionists said, hey, you're in the right place. So they sent me up to the 37th, 38th floor, and I made it by 1 minute. So now I sit down in this room with absolutely no windows for about 6 hours, having 30-minute interviews with everybody on the team back to back to back to back. And they're just asking me about my knowledge about finances, my passions, why I want the role, why I'm coming from Ohio, my sports background, everything over and over and over. And after about 8 or 10 different interviews, the main hiring manager and the manager of the team came back into the room and said, hey, just a brief feedback. The people on the team love you. What I have to do is take this back to HR, see what they want to do, and then we'll give you a call. I said, okay, no problem. I went down the elevator, hopped in an Uber back to the hotel, grabbed my stuff, hopped in my car, and headed back to Ohio. Like I said, this was about an 8-hour drive, so I was just listening to music the whole time, and then suddenly my phone rings. It's a New York number. So I answered, and it's the hiring manager. And they said, hey, you know what? We haven't done something like this in the past, but the team loved you. They love that you came out. They love what you had to say, your passions about finances and JP Morgan. And here's what we want to do. We want to offer you to become an analyst here at JP Morgan, and we want you to start at the beginning of the year. By this time, it was October. So now on my way back, I had about 4 hours left. And all I had to think about was, I got to move in the next month and a half because I'm going to be a banker on Wall Street at JP Morgan.